Hey there and welcome back to Rimworld. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of Rimworld Odyssey. Last time we left off after settling in the Grasslands, a vast open expanse with plenty of fertile soil but little trees or hills. We quickly established the basics of a small base, tamed 2 bison and took in the refugees Alexander and Choco, but the wildlife became a problem. Man-hunting hares surrounded our shelter for several days, and shortly after we also had waster pirates attacking in drop pods. At the moment, our colonists are still recovering from the injuries sustained in that fight. Brian even suffered an infection, and as you can see, mood is bad all around. That soon leads to Choco going berserk, and with a knife and a melee skill of 9, we probably want Alexander nowhere close to her right now. Unfortunately, that results in Choco berserk rushing a herd of buffalo, with not entirely unexpected consequences. On the bright side, her tortured artist trait now gives her a creativity inspiration, while the buffalo is properly enraged and charges towards our base now, but Snellgraf is able to stop it in time. Just in time, he also grabs Choco to carry her back into the safety of our shelter. She's lost a finger, but otherwise she will hopefully be fine if we give her enough time to recover. Snellgraf even throws a party to make everyone feel better. The guy is an irrational soul, to say the least. However, it's not all smiles in the colony. Brian suffers a crisis of belief, his conviction in the Stars of Som dwindling. Who knows, maybe life among the stars isn't so great after all. Now, in the aftermath of a rainy thunderstorm, we take note of one of the downsides of the Grasslands. They're prone to catching on fire. Even this small patch here could quickly spread across the entire map, as there are very few natural fire breaks, so we send in Alex to quickly beat it out. Luckily, the small stream dividing the map is one such firebreak, but if we want to protect our colony, we need something more. And speaking of possible construction projects in the future, mostly due to Alexander's mining efforts, we have gained over 1,000 units of steel here, and as you can see, a bit more is still to come. On the next morning, we first need to watch River throw another teenage tantrum inside her gravship prison. It is unfortunate that she's been forced to be in here for so long, but at this point we are only letting her out after she's been converted, and hopefully that should be soon. That is, if she survives for long enough, as Reno suffers a mental break next, and our normally non-violent Itakin now decides to kill River. Of course, we can't have that, so let's put him in chains, even for just a few moments. That stops the mental break and we can release him soon after. Now, while River is still busy beating up the gravship, we construct our first bedroom inside of our small shelter. The sleep situation in barracks is just an unnecessary mood penalty for everyone, particularly though for Alex, who has the greedy trait, and so this here bedroom will become hers. Just in that moment, we also unlock the complex clothing research project. We will likely get on that as soon as we have the basics up and running, and since we are in a rather warm climate, we'll unlock air conditioning next. I don't think we'll need a freezer right away, but something to keep us cool in case of a heat wave would be great. Now, with the bedroom constructed, Alex goes to harvest some rice and in doing so attracts some crows, and of course we can't have them eat our food, so her Thrumberhorn puts a quick stop to that. Then we also put down a battery to be a bit less reliant on the comings and goings of the wind, and then, a few hours later, in the middle of the night, we receive a quest that I don't think we're going to take. We have plenty of construction still left to do for ourselves, and the rewards here do not strike me as particularly intriguing. Early on the following morning then, we begin the construction of our fire breaks, and they are a bit unconventional, if you will, because instead of building a wall, we're just building a few pillars with a roof on top of them. After a few days, this will kill all the vegetation below the roof, and doing so across 3 tiles is enough to stop any fires from spreading. Now, while Brian is building, Alex is busy converting, and finally with success, young River has been made a believer in the Stars of Som. That means we can now finally release her and kickstart our ideology a bit more, as her rejoining the colony adds a 3rd member of the Stars of Som to our roster, and thus unlocks the role of Star Warden, the ideology's moral guide. And I have some plans with that role, but first let's continue our construction here. I think it's worth mentioning that the plants will not die immediately. That actually takes quite a long time. Any fires breaking out in the meantime will still need to be taken care of, but long term this is a cheap and fast way to protect the base. Alternatively, we could just assign a growing zone and tell our pawns to cut all plants here, but as long as we don't need to, we'll let time do its thing. Eventually then, another evening arrives and the air conditioning project is successfully researched. Up next, I think we need to fast-track microelectronics, just so we get access to deep drilling quickly, a technology that could be life-saving here in the Grasslands. A somewhat recovered Choco now also spends her creativity inspiration on constructing the very first bed in our colony. Skill-wise, she would definitely be better suited for art, but with the 2-level quality increase, she still produces an excellent result and even engraves some artwork of Brian leaping away from a roof collapse. So obviously we'll give that bed to Alex, the engraving of her former lover of course just a coincidence, and on the next morning Alex and Brian work hand in hand to finish our firebreak project. Now at this point we take note of the fact that a boomelope is wandering by, and I think I also spotted a second one over by the river here. The first is unfortunately running off the map and Reno is not fast enough to catch it, but the second is swiftly approached and successfully tamed. So we welcome our first natural chem fuel machine to the colony, named Clickety-Clack. Let's hope a boom does not follow those words. And well, Reno is putting that pun to the test as he goes berserk right after the taming attempt and starts beating up Clickety-Clack. The pacifying squad is rushing in, but not before the boomelope goes down. I made Alex drop her thrumberhorn to avoid anything too serious here, and together the 3 of them knock some sense back into Reno. Afterwards, he is of course quickly tended to, just like the boomelope, and this could actually have some uncomfortable consequences, as our main cook is now out of action. For the time being though, we have a few meals still left and can work on satisfying Alex's greed. She doesn't just want her own bedroom, she also wants it to be really impressive. And well, the easiest way to achieve something close to that is by planting daylilies on every single tile not occupied by a bed or end table. No plant pot required, we can put them straight into the ground. Each one provides a beauty of 18 as soon as it's planted, although we still need to subtract the -3 from the dirt, but still that turns a small hideous chamber into a decent bedroom and reduces Alex's mood penalty from -8 to -4. Of course, this is not a long-term solution, daylilies only last for a few days, so eventually we'll want to install some artwork, but in the early stages of a colony it is a great way to avoid unhappiness. Now, skipping ahead to the following morning, a still injured Reno is back at the stove cooking, and we construct a second bedroom now. This one will be Brian's. As the founder of this entire thing, I think he has earned it. We are also constructing some steel traps here. Of course, they will not be deployed in this spot. The plan is to uninstall them and put them where they're needed in case of the next enemy raid. Then we are hit by an eclipse, which is unfortunate for a continued food supply from our crops, so we might have to go hunting if an opportunity presents itself, even if Reno won't like it. Speaking of people not liking things, Choco is back with another mental break, now throwing a tantrum because it's dark. I think someone needs to teach her that these things are natural, but maybe as an artist she's just dramatic like that. On the plus side, this leads to yet another creativity inspiration, and as a result to yet another bed, this one only of good quality though. Still, it is now moved into Brian's bedroom, which has been equally beautified, and then it's time for our first role change. Now, the role of Star Warden, our moral guide, will not go to Brian. He's not great with people, I think, so Alex gets it instead. She's got a social skill of 4 and has done most of the work when it came to converting River. Very importantly though, this now results in a net loss of -12 mood points for her, as her expectations have risen by 2 levels, and unfortunately for her, that will soon be even worse. But first of all, let's use her newfound powers to immediately hold a conversion ritual. However, we're not going to do so outside here. If we instead move the ritual spot into Alex's bedroom, the room's impressiveness will result in an almost 10% quality increase for the ritual, whose first target is of course none other than Reno, who at the moment is suffering heavily from being a non-violent raider supremacist. Now, we have a good chance of this being at least an effective ritual, but Rimworld is full of surprises. The 18% chance kicks in, and as her first ritual as our Star Warden, Alex pulls off a masterful conversion. Not only does this give everyone a +6 mood bonus, but the Stars of Som also gain their 4th member now, and perhaps most importantly, Reno will no longer demand to go raiding or that we don't hurt animals. So, lovely stuff, and on the following morning, Brian is busy constructing a new building, just as an electric charge unloads itself, right where Boomalope Clickety-Clack is standing. Alex and our hand Crocodile also take damage, in Crocodile's case actually a substantial amount, but luckily no one dies. A few hours later then, the eclipse has passed and we can put the finishing touches on what is going to be our workshop now. In the case of the various workbenches, the game thankfully still allows us to put them all into the same room without work speed penalties. Just in that moment, we also have a visitor passing by, a lone tribal trader, and while she makes her way over to us, we plant some more rice. I think our current setup is not quite enough for 7 people, at least not until the corn is ready. Reno then approaches her, and we exchange some spare weapons for herbal medicine and silver. Not the most exciting trade, but it gets rid of some unwanted inventory. She also shares with us the location of a hidden complex that may hold treasure, although as you can see on the map here, we'll definitely need the gravship to get over there in a reasonable amount of time. Speaking of which, we are of course going to use that ship very soon to go on new adventures. For now, I am mainly saving up on chem fuel so that we don't get stuck wherever we land. Now at this point, you can also see it here, a large number of fertilized eggs in our storage room have hatched, and unfortunately, except for one, it's all males. One of them we're going to keep, now going by the name of Cascainho, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and the female will stay too, of course, now named Happy Squid, but the others will butcher, as they won't really produce anything for us. Then, shortly after the lone tribal woman leaves again, we've got a large combat supplier caravan coming in. Unfortunately though, they are also tribal in nature, and I'll make it brief, we didn't end up trading anything. Instead, Alex gets food poisoning because the still injured Reno forgot to clean the kitchen, but at least our workshop is coming along, now equipped with an art bench. We also end up finding a use for the caravan after all, as Nelgraf here sneaks up on a timberwolf and causes it to go manhunter. At this point, we just need to lead the injured animal back to our visitors, and they'll take care of the rest. And because that was nice and easy, let's do it again. We still have 2 wild bison to the southeast of our shelter, and they are quickly aggroed too. Since the base is nearby, Nelgraf manages to outrun them easily, and now we once again leave things to the traders. As you can see, they have a slightly more difficult time here and actually lose one of their own. Maybe that'll teach them to be a bit more careful. Either way, we gain a nice influx of meat that should secure our food supply for the next few days, And we did it all just in time, as Nelgraf suffers another drug-related mental break just a few moments later. Obviously, he will be the next candidate for conversion, but this ritual right here is another role change instead, and it is one that won't exactly make Alex happy. With Reno now part of our ideology, it only makes sense to have him be the moral guide, as his social skill of 9 with double passions is far better than what Alex can offer, not to mention that he is not greedy and filled with bloodlust, and therefore probably fits the ideology's ideals a bit better. Unfortunately, this now results in a hefty -15 mood penalty for Alex, but at least she gets her low expectations back. Nonetheless, this is effectively a further -3 penalty that will last for 10 whole days. But life and work in the colony have to continue, this time with the construction of 2 new bedrooms, just as Reno breaks down from the new expectations of his role, and maybe the pain too. So he'll be in a daze for a while, and teenager River is also officially ending her grace period and now binges out on Psychite. This time, however, we'll let her. The next harvest is close, and I suppose the young ones need to experience these things on their own. In Reno's absence, Alexander is also taking over cooking and butchering duties. Overall, the presence of Alexander and Choco these last few days was definitely a positive, and especially Alexander's mood has been very stable. That is likely because he's a nudist running around naked. Now, one person I haven't talked about in this video yet is our prisoner who just went berserk, and who can blame her? Either way, we quickly put her back in her place, perhaps a bit too violently, and will soon continue converting her. If Alexander and Choco end up leaving, and that is what we need to expect, we could recruit her to become our new miner, a role that we'll desperately need once the deep drill is unlocked. For now though, we focus on finishing those 2 extra bedrooms. Once again, Alex and Brian are working hand in hand here, and all in all, I would say our little Grasslands outpost is coming along nicely. I do struggle a bit though coming up with ideas for the base layout. I don't want to just wall everything in and build big blocky rooms, but I also don't want to build lots of tiny houses like we did in the Cold Box series. So let me know what a Grasslands base for a spacefaring ideology led by a taxonomist could look like. I think we should make some slightly more permanent plans for this place before we construct too much just off the cuff. One final note then, in the evening here, we can see Brian flirting with Alex, who at least for now still rejects the attempt. Nonetheless, there is no denying that the two have grown to like each other again, so who knows, maybe we can get them to settle their differences once and for all next time. For today, however, I think we have reached a good point to make the cut and to look at some fan art. I am very happy with where we are with this playthrough, but I'm afraid at the same time that Randy has been awfully quiet with raids these last few episodes, apart from that drop pod attack last time, so I think we'll need to up our defenses soon. For now, I'm trying to keep wealth low, but as we progress further and further, we need to make sure our combat capabilities grow as well. That will be a focus for the next video though. For today, I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.